Welcome to MVC Architecture Design. Today we are going to discuss about MVC Architecture, how it will be involved with the PHP programming. MVC, in the sense we call model, view, and controller. When you are develop web programming, it's quite easy to build up the program separately. For an example, when you develop a program, a big and complex program, right? If we are develop such a program in a one single program, uh, for development period, it's quite easy to develop. But when we are modifying, or when we are reviewing the source code, it quite difficult to get understand, and very difficult to understand because of maybe the program has many functionalities. Some programs it's about 100 functionalities, 100,000 codes. Scrolling all these codes together, it's quite difficult. So at that time, if you can develop a program on different sections, in Java or any other object oriented programs, what you can do is you can write the program on separate modules, on a separate classes, as well as you can program the code hierarchical structure. It's quite manageable, understandable, and many other advantages. So similar in PHP, you have MVC, the programming structure. It will be quite helpful to develop such a complex software application. So let me go through one by one. In Here we are going to discuss about what about the MVC architecture, and some example of MVC application, and the advantages. MVC architecture, in the sense we call model view controller. Usually the user request uh, some functionalities through the web, and the interface, the presentation view, uh, user can request some information. So the request you can send to the controller to control who can access those information, and if that user is authenticated to view the functionalities, so it will goes to the model and get the information, and send it to the user. So before that, view model, what it can do is to uh, customize your interface, and how the data should be represented on the presentation layer, so it will be defined. MVC architecture, it's quite not new concept. It was presented in 1979. uh, so Here's the MVC architecture. You can see, so here we have the controller, as well as we have the model and the view. So the controller, sometimes it's sent to the model, as well as sometimes request it goes to the view. And the view sometimes send the information to the model, what the information need to present, and then finally it comes again to the view to present the data to the user. um, so here there is another definition, the layer structure. If we When we talk about the layer structure model, uh, so we have presentation layer, business layer, and the data layer. So here the presentation layer, what we call the view model. View model, the data is present to the user, and business layer, what it does, what's the business about the program, right? How the business is going on, what information need to provide to the users, who to whom need that information, such a logic, so we can develop in the controller. And the data layer, we can discuss the model. So here the model, what it does, it's provide the relevant information, right? What the according to the request, it send the relevant information. So the model is responsible for managing the data. So the request comes to the model view. So the program structure, we request the information from the databases, and then we retrieve the data, and we send to the controller or the view. Stored and retrieve entries used by the application, usually from the database, but can also include invocation of external web services or API. So that means some model view architecture, um, some API is available, application programming interfaces available. You can get a service. So the advantage of the API is it's already structured the framework, and we can call the functionalities. The advantage, another advantage is so you can develop the program in less codes, contain the logic implemented by the application. So in the business logic, so whatever the information that will be provided from the model is a request from the business layer. So the view, or we call the presentation layer, it's responsible to display the data provided by the model in specific format. In web application, we have to develop with HTML codes, and the interface, we can customize, or uh, uh, more graphical interface, user friendly interface we can create with CSS. Combined together, we can present quite interested interface. And usually the web applications comes with index file. So the user requests from the index file the information, and then it presented on the uh, view model. So the controller is the another important uh, layer what we have to discuss. uh, so as I told you, it's the business layer. So the business layer is very much important, what the information need to provide for the end user, handle model and view layers to work together. So it's the key thing that I know. So you better to know about how you can program your application, right? So that's the place you have to develop your logic. Uh, Receives a uh, request from the client, invokes the model to perform the requested operations and send the data to the view. So that means from the model view, so you have to send the request to the model view, and then get the information, and then it's provided to the view model. Um, so here how the diagram, how it's collaborate with the uh, model. You can see so MVC collaboration, the diagram, the client request and information from the website, right, or the web application. So it comes with as a HTTP request. It goes to the it directly goes to the controller view. So the controller view is check either it's sent to the view model or the uh, model, right? So if there is a request, it goes to the model view, then it goes as a request data object, and then it's manipulated the request, and uh, it's return the relevant data from the model view, and then the controller will send that information to the view model to formatted the data, and it's send the response to the client as a HTTP response. So that's how the application it works. So this architecture used many software application. So in classroom we have discussed PHP programming. So the MVC architecture is work on PHP language, JSP, servlet, uh, yeah, JSP, Java, servlet programming, and .NET, and many other web application programming languages. So MVC sequence diagram. So this is how it's work as what we discussed earlier. So the sequence diagram it's represent client's first the client requests that information from the application. So the request gets from the controller, and it's sent to the model, right? So what it is, and then um, it returns the data to the controller. So then the controller needs to format the data, so which means controller send that the relevant data to the model view, sorry, from the controller to view layer, and then view layer formatted the information, and then from the controller it send that information to the client as a HTTP response. So that's how it works.